It's 4:02. All the meetings are ordered. The regular meeting of the Board of Directors of San Ynez River Valley Groundwater Basin Eastern Management Area Groundwater Sustainability Agency. Dan, can we have a roll call?
Director Circle,
Yes.
Director Arona,
Here.
Director Hartman,
Here.
Director Marymee, here, Chris Yost.
Here. Okay, let's move to item number 2, public comment. Any member of the public may address the board relating to any non-agenda matter within the board's jurisdiction. The time for public comment allotted for each individual shall not exceed 3 minutes. No action will be taken by the board at this meeting on any public comment item. Have any public comment? Anybody online?
If you're online and you'd like to make a public comment, please raise your hand. No one's raising their hand.
Okay.
I'd like to make an announcement. We had an update to the agenda packet that was sent out, right around noonday. However, there appears to be some sort of issue with Microsoft Outlook servers, and so some people may not have received the notification that the updated packet was posted. The packet is accessible through the EMA GSA's website. So if you navigate there and you go to the meetings page, you can pull up the updated packet. Maybe Charlotte, we can put a link to the page in the chat, which would at least help folks that are online easily navigate there. And then the update included 3 items. There was an update to item 4B, which was inclusion of the amendment for the professional services agreement. And then there were 2 updates to item 4C. There was a minor update to the professional services agreement. And then also an update to the proposal. And so I'll go through those updates when we get to those items.
Okay, very good. Okay, let's consent agenda. It's item 3A, approval of meeting minutes for November 20th, 2025. Or any comments, changes? Move we approve it. Okay, Bill.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, approved and then. Okay, let's move on to the financial statements and warrant list. Dan, you wanna run us through those?
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight a couple of items on the financial statements. I think the first item that I want to highlight, probably the most exciting item, is if you look on the profit and loss page, page 8 of your packet. You'll see item 4,300 groundwater extraction fee, income for amount of $192,880. That is revenue that was generated from the groundwater extraction fee that was charged through the property tax roll that has been distributed to the EMA GSA. So I think for the first time, we as a GSA have a revenue stream that isn't contributions from the Medicare agencies or grant reimbursement. And so it's exciting to see, the fruits of that labor, meaning the process that we went through last spring and summer to develop a groundwater extraction fee as a way to fund the ongoing operations of the JPA. So that's just the first of the installments to the groundwater extraction fee from the property tax roll. Additional installments will come in as those taxes get paid. And then we'll also get revenue from direct billing when those bills go out to pumpers. So yeah, just wanted to highlight that piece. Then we also have The other thing I want to highlight, we have on the warrant list, that's page 12 of the packet. We have a invoice from Central Management Area for costs associated with the action plan. And we've included this on the warrant list for the board's approval consideration because the amount exceeded the amount that was originally approved in the cost share agreement between the management areas. And largely the reasons for that was it was just some additional level of effort on the consultant team to get the final deliverables ready and to a level of completeness that we wanted for the action plan, given, you know, the importance of that item. And then I think something we didn't really anticipate when we established the original cost share agreement was that where we're going to be printing costs as well as costs from the conservation district to develop a flyer to help and to advertise the workshops. And then also it decided throughout the process that we wanted a legal counsel from one of the agencies to participate in the action plan workshop meetings to answer any questions from a legal perspective that could come up. And so those costs were included as well. These costs are just split evenly amongst the three management areas and are grant reimbursable. But they were more than what's originally approved in the cost share agreement. So we need to bring it to the board for approval consideration. And I think the amount of the overages to the EMA is approximately $7,500.
Any questions on the financials or warrant list? Any motion to approve? I hear. So moved.
I'll second.
And second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right,
Opposed?
do we need to separately approve the 7,500? Yeah. You know,
It's in consent.
I think it's included in the warrant list under item 4B. I think that's sufficient.
Okay, moving on. Action item 4, Dan, you wanna do the work there?
Yeah, so action item 4A, election and appointment of officers. The JPA for the EMA requires annual appointment of officers at the first meeting following January 1st of each year. There's other provisions related to it. And currently, our suite of officers are Director Joes is the chair, Director Arona is the vice chair, Director Circle is the secretary and treasurer, Director Hartman doesn't currently have an officer position, and then Director Merritt was the former chair. At the appointment of officers for 2025, it was recommended that the board consider a rotation of officer appointments. And so, you know, we as staff thought that would be an orderly way to do this. And so if the board wanted to move forward with a rotation, then this year, the rotation of the officers as currently structured, the order would be Director Arona as the chair, Director Circle as the vice chair, Director Hartman as the secretary.
we accept the
I second.
Okay.
We have some discussion.
No discussion.
Okay.
No discussion.
I think there's an expectation that we each step up, and I think that is a fair and orderly way.
I'm fine. I'm good. I'm ready to do my part.
Good. Do we need a roll call vote or we just?
you don't have to involve
Yeah, we're on here.
Okay,
any objections.
all in favor?
Um,
Aye. Opposed? No. Congratulations, you guys. You got.
Gonna pass the gavel?
Thank you.
Run the meeting.
Transfer of power. I'm gonna have to job to agree to this thing. With calendar.
Yeah.
We're gonna take a public comment.
Yeah, public comment.
You do need to take public comment.
Who does that? A former chair or the current chair?
Right now, the former chair should, because we haven't fully finished this.
Public comment?
I just wanted to say, Chairman Josie did a fantastic job leading us through the last year. And especially at that meeting, the hearing where people were having to understand what the charges were going to be. I thought you did a great job, so thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Appreciate the board. I appreciate the public, you know, because this is sensitive stuff. You know, so I appreciate it, and I hope in the future we can meet in the middle with everybody. Okay,
Okay,
proceeding with
we move on.
Elizabeth.
Okay, let's move on to item 4A. Review and consider approval of the renewal of the professional services agreement with Aleshire and Wynder for legal services, and the agreement is provided in the packet.
Yes, so in the updated packet, you'll see the amendment to the professional service agreement for Aleshire and Wynder. It's the board of recall. Aleshire and Wynder was selected through a competitive process back in 2024 and has been serving as legal counsel for the GSA since then. And so here today, we have Bill Hall with Aleshire and Wynder, and then Keith Lemieux with Aleshire and Wynder, as you recall from back when their contract was awarded. And I'd like to present the opportunity for Bill to introduce himself, and they're available to answer any questions if there are.
Okay, thanks. That's the question. You said there was a change to that, to the package that I didn't get. Are they gonna cover that, or are you gonna cover that,
So I think on that item, it wasn't necessarily a change, it was an addition.
or an update?
Is that right? So in the original packet, the amendment hadn't been finalized, and so it's not there. We could pull it up here, and show it on the screen. Or I can give you my copy and you can take a look at that if you'd like, as a way, or we can describe it verbally.
Yeah, we should describe it verbally anyway. It's a real simple amendment. It just extends the term to January 1, 2027. There's also, for transparency purposes, the rate schedule is readopted in this also. But that's all it does, extend the term.
Did rates change at all?
The rates have been in effect since June, so no. But for transparency purposes, you should stay here again.
And so we're getting the firm and we can get different lawyers, is that correct? Or do it with the same lawyer?
Well,
Should I speak to that?
yeah, like he's
Yeah, you are hiring the firm. And you'll recall I was here when you guys hired. If you haven't seen my face, I have stayed involved in your work. And Steve O'Neill was handling that for us. He's told us that he wants to reduce his hours working. So, in the interest of making sure you've got somebody you can rely on, we'd like to introduce Mr. Hall. He's got a tremendous amount of experience with groundwater authority. He can speak to that. But, yeah, you're hiring the firm, but the idea is that Mr. Hall will be the lawyer that will always be available to you and that you can rely.
Well, you want to give us a little background?
Sure. I've been doing public agency work for over 20 years. The first decade of my career roughly was representing virtually every type of water district in the state of California. After that, I went to the county of Kern, and whenever the county of Kern, right as GSA started, and I was main part of forming the Ynez Valley Groundwater Authority and general counsel of that for 12 years, virtually. So, yeah, I'm very, very involved in groundwater sustainability agencies. See just better part of
And Phil, you've also testified, have you not, on legislation involving groundwater?
Yeah, we got legislation passed and I testified at the legislature on groundwater sustainability legislation, so. I don't know, but.
That's what this is all about. You gotta-
Yeah, so, like, to say I've got an experience in it is a bit of an understatement. I don't know if I have as much, or more, I should say. Probably people haven't had much, but not more.
How about familiarity with groundwater banking and setting that up in an area?
Well,
Attorney does.
in my prior practice, representing every type of water storage district, every type of water district, some of them was water storage districts and all that, so I'm very familiar with banking, very familiar with how they operate. Very all the problems of, have a passive banking system or ponds versus if you're gonna have a direct injection wells, and cost of those, so. I've got quite a bit of knowledge of how that works, and then outside of being an attorney, as third generation. So I have an idea how all that part of it works too. I've got a pretty good general understanding of how engineering works from just what I do and for fun.
I don't think it's betraying any confidence as to reveal that Phil is currently negotiating, what's it, $25 million banking deal? Current?
60 million actually in today's dollars, which will loan about 120 over the 20 years it would be there. So.
Okay, have your firm dealt with any of the San Joaquin Valley water districts there that are in, well, they're not meeting sustainability. Are you associated with any of those?
Severe.
Yeah.
So we currently don't, we only represent now one of the GSAs in the San Joaquin Valley, which is, we just were hired to do South Kings. The rest of them, no. But the GAs that we do represent are mainly Central Coast and also, to the east side of California.
Yeah, Paso Robles, by any chance?
We do not represent one in Paso Robles, unfortunately. But it would do work for us.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? So public comment? Okay, any discussion? We can go ahead and entertain a motion.
I make a motion we accept Aleshire Wynder.
Yeah, could we maybe get a pronunciation lesson on the firm?
Yeah, everybody says it wrong, including me sometimes. It's Aleshire, not Aylshire, and it's Wynder, not Wynder. Aleshire and Wynder, which I think means hobbits that are making clocks or something, right?
Oh,
The Aylshire.
Natural services.
That firm, that's agenda.
Oh, I didn't take it. I told you, screwed up.
So we have a motion,
Yeah,
right?
it's Aylshire,
Second.
Aleshire. Like you're winding a clock.
All right, I think we have a motion and a second.
Seconds by Joan.
Do a roll call or just wrong groups?
Since we're renewing the contract, does that require a roll call vote or?
It would be preferable.
Council advises.
Director Circle,
Yes.
Director Arona,
Yes.
Director Hartman,
Yes.
sorry, I'm gonna make sure I don't screw this up, Director Marmy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Me,
Well, no, see, I did screw it up, so it's
I'm director.
your Director Joe's, but then Chair Arona.
That's right.
All right, let me do that again.
Don't worry, it's not a problem.
We don't need to vote. We're all here.
Director Circle,
Yes.
Director Hartman.
I'm to just say no.
Director Marmy,
Yes.
Director Joe's,
Yes.
Chair Arona,
Yes.
right,
All right,
there we go.
thank you. We'll move on. Item 4C, review and consider approval of professional services agreement for MLJ Environmental for the EMA GSA DMS well registration and reporting platform. Yep. Reports.
Yes, thank you, Chair Rona. We have here a recommendation for approval of a software provider for establishing a data management system for the registration, to handle the registration, as well as the reporting of meter production for well owners in the EMA. And this is an item that's included in the Prop 68 grant work plan. I believe it's also included as a project in the GSP. And it's something that we've been working towards probably for the last 6 months in terms of identifying and delivering a platform for the board's consideration. This is going to be a critical component of how the GSA envisions managing groundwater and moving forward. It'll be a tool for us to compile all meter for wet and well data within the basin. As the board knows, there are currently a large portion of the EMA is undistricted, and we do not have records or the complete record set of wells in that area. And then with the approval of the well metering and reporting ordinance come October of 2027, pumpers within the EMA will be required to report, install meters prior to that and then report meter production. And so to support the selection of a consultant to provide these services, we received 4 proposals. These proposals were presented to the Citizens Advisory Group at the December 18th meeting, where we received input from the CAG members as well as other interested EMA GSA stakeholders. We used that input to then define the criteria that staff, the executive director team, used to evaluate the proposals and then to present our independent recommendation on what platform to move forward with. I do want to sort of pause here and just talk about something else, and then I'll get back to the evaluation and the recommendation. Just in case there's any confusion. At our last board meeting, we mentioned that we would be applying to DWR for facilitation support services. That's a program that DWR that provides free services to GSAs to support implementation of Sigma. I'm happy to report that we received notification that our application was approved. So DWR will be funding a consultant to help us with facilitation support. And the services that were approved include stakeholder outreach and communication to assist with the well registration and groundwater extraction reporting program implementation. And I just want to make that's an exciting opportunity that will save the GSA lots of time and money, but it's independent of the platform. What we are actually here considering approval today is the software platform for where all this information is going to go. What DWR is going to do is help us put on workshops and work individually with well owners to populate that platform. And without DWR support, it was either going to be on the executive director team or some other consultant to do all that work at additional cost to the GSA. So I just wanted to share that and hopefully eliminate any confusion about those 2 different services. So back to the platform. We reviewed and evaluated the proposals, with the criteria that the GSA needed direct ownership and access to control of the data to ensure compliance, transparency, and long-term flexibility. We also factored in the fact that the GSA has, limited staffing, it's contract staff that works on a part-time basis, to administer functions of the GSA. And then also we put a priority on platforms that are well established, that, have been in existence and are readily available to implement a well registration platform in preparation for metering and reporting. As I mentioned, we have passed ordinances that require metering reporting. And before we do that, we need to have everybody register so we know who to make sure has installed a meter and is reporting. So we wanted to be able to jump on that and get that registration effort done as quickly as possible. And so in consideration of the proposals provided, we developed a evaluation criteria table. So that's shown on page 22 of your packet that evaluated each of the proposals based on a variety of factors that included ownership and control of the data, the ability for landowners to complete online registration, ability for landowners to perform their meter entry data, the ability for the platform to provide staff reporting and exports, the maturity of the platform, has it been implemented and is it in use? And then costs, and then long-term scalability potential. And so based on that evaluation, the executive director team is recommending that the MLJ watermark platform be selected as the data management system for well registration and reporting. And this platform would be provided as a software as a service. And so there would be an annual cost associated with that. It would be a dedicated EMA branded portal where we put our own EMA specific information and also allow landowners to pre-populate their data as well. Some things to note that, even though we're paying for a subscription, we still own all the data. We could at any time export the data for the EMA GSA's use outside of that platform. And it can also scale for additional groundwater reporting or management needs in the future. There would be a one-time implementation cost of approximately $18,000. And then an annual license fee of $15,000. All of these costs are eligible for reimbursement under the Prop 68 grants. And we had budgeted $60,000 for this year's implementation of the registration extraction platform. And so then included in your agenda packet is a professional services agreement for MLJ, and then as well as the proposal. And so I'd like to highlight the two changes that were included in the updated agenda packet. First, to the professional services agreement, there were just some minor artifact typos with respect to the consultant name that we changed to MLJ. I believe it on page 24. So in the first paragraph,
Yes.
it referenced the audit consulting firm, and obviously that's the next item. It should have referenced MLJ Environmental, as it does now in the updated packet. But if you look on it should still be, it wouldn't be page 24 in Director Mary's packet. So. And we can pull it up on the screen if that's helpful. That'd be great.
While they're doing that, frame a question.
Yeah, are you okay to take questions down when we get in?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Can you enlarge it so we can actually read it? Yes. I burned my binoculars. Yeah.
It's like,
Remind us again exactly what the change is.
Yeah, so in the identification paragraph, it says this professional service agreement is entered into by and among saving as for the ground, EMA, for that, joint powers, agency client, and it previously said, and the name of the audit firm instead of MLJ Environmental. So that's the only change to the contract was just swapping that word.
So my question is, the representative, the DWR will pay for training. At least Kevin could probably speak to this more clearly, but in the San Antonio basin, I understand a lot of it was done by hand and not populated by the, older ownership. It's not convenient for them and so there was a lot of hand holding. So we've got DWR taking a piece, this firm taking a piece. Who's going to do that hand holding, and is that included in either of those proposals, recognizing that's a likely scenario?
Yeah, so it's envisioned that DWR would be doing the handholding, for lack of a better term. And then,
saying annual data entry for the folks who can't
Correct.
get on the digital
Yeah.
platform.
Yeah, and they've even needed help understanding, in some cases, how to report. So it was pretty time consuming.
So when we promote the platform, will there be, there's usually links, which that's the way the digital world works today. Will there be phone numbers and who to contact for?
yeah, so we're still finalizing the scope. But yeah, that was the whole intent, is we know that there's going to be a significant level of effort to work with property owners, well owners, to put their data into this platform in one form or another. They can go on the website and do it all themselves. They can come to a workshop. There'll be people with iPads that can fill it out for them, the time with the people, or they can spend time on the phone, or potentially even, work again, finalize it. We can have somebody that goes door to door, presumably, and helps them populate it. And so the intent was, regardless of what platform we went with, that would be a helpful service and save a lot of time and money for the GSA.
Well, and also helping them accomplish that will reduce our enforcement, just because they may not be unwilling to do it, but have difficulty achieving it.
Well, they need to work with them, and like for next year or whenever the next reporting period is, they've got to be set up. So part of that training ought to include, here's your iPad or whatever, you're going to use it, the interface, and then show them how to do it so that they don't have to keep doing that training.
That was my main set of questions did we look at the user interface? And if there was no screenshots or anything did we actually test that? Since the decision is to choose a software platform, how interactive did we make that evaluation?
We didn't necessarily do our own hands-on trial with each of the platforms, but we did have presentations from each of the providers to the CAGs. And I mean, these are platforms that have been in existence and in use in other basins. So, they do it the best of our, these are found.
Did staff check references like with those other basins to get some feedback on exactly her point?
We haven't necessarily contacted others. I would say that I know that this platform was recently selected for use in another basin, which we thought was a permit, but we can check said references,
Here's my experience there. You would, since the idea is self-service and we don't have the ability to do data entry, but the data is really the reason we're putting the in place. The user interface is key, right? It has to be easy to use, and the data collection is critical. So either talking to those references to make sure you understood how much, what percentage of data accuracy did you get? What feedback did you get on the user interface? That's going to be key if we didn't actually try it out ourselves. So that usually is a weighted criteria for how you're evaluating or comparing and contrasting the different options.
I can follow on that. You just highlighted as a weighted factor, first year cost. I thought that would be weighted very high. I don't know if this is in rank order or not. This is just what you chose as your evaluation criteria. Recurring cost ought to be a consideration, I would think too. And you mentioned that if we choose this platform now, we have licensing fees that we have to pay on an annual basis. So where does all of that, looking at the broader cost as opposed to just first year initial cost, I would think that should have been weighted in the evaluation factors and probably weighted more heavily than maybe some of these other entries. Can you comment on that?
We didn't necessarily apply a quantitative number to each cost. I mean, we took the thing that as a whole and sort of a comprehensive, sort of an assessment.
You have subjective, moderate, highest, moderate, lowest. What was, for at least first year cost, what was the break points on that? I mean, we just received our first revenue that wasn't grant or loans from stakeholder agencies. We've all committed to trying to manage the cost to keep this affordable for those that are paying the bills, but yet it doesn't seem like we've made a very good evaluation on cost, which I thought was very important to everybody in the room.
Value is important to me. And one aspect of that would be, is there any scenario where we would imagine this would want to talk to or be integrated into the other GSAs on the river or the conservation district, where we want to have a comprehensive set of these data?
I mean, any scenario, yes. I guess to date, the other management areas, to my knowledge, have not adopted registration, metering and reporting ordinances. And so
We're ahead of them
we're,
on
yeah,
something.
the EMA is, but not on, take it more steps in that direction for management. I mean, there are some unique circumstances in the EMA that, so you don't apply in the other management areas, the primary one being the undistricted area. Yeah, so, but depending on where those other management areas go, we do want it to talk, I mean, there are advantages to having synergy, but they don't necessarily currently have
They're interested.
they have the contribution district record.
Yeah, and then the conservation district's records, we're groundwater, they're riparian. There's kind of a gray area where we're not sure what, we have some responsibility there. But we're not really metering, we're just engaged in education, is that right? But we don't know how that might evolve over time, is that right? So I guess I'm interested in how collaborative they can be, how hard it is to integrate back and forth with the conservation district.
Yeah, so I mean, largely to my knowledge, these platforms are structured as databases and, you can export data in database formats and, there may be some manipulation that's required, but, there are opportunities to integrate. Now, will they integrate seamlessly? Not unless structured intentionally to do that. But, yeah, I mean, I think that, with the proposal 1 year service, if we're not happy with the platform, we take our data and go home, and there are opportunities to make a change.
Yeah, well, I think
Or integrate with others.
given we're first in line here, I think to the extent that we can at least make the basins on the San Ynez River consistent would be a real advantage.
But we're not doing that.
Well,
We just heard,
we could, I mean, we would take it on your own position, yeah.
but it has to go before those GSAs
Yeah, right,
to make that
right.
decision. I mean,
And it's
another-
not our decision.
Yeah, and I agree with what you.
I just stated a preference.
Yeah, okay, I agree with what you said about value statement, but one thing that concerned me was risk wasn't a factor here, and it does say in their proposal, final cost may vary depending on total acreage, and custom data integration. Did you apply any risk factors to the 4 proposals received to kind of decide, yeah, this one's low risk, this one's moderate risk, or this is high risk from perspective of cost? Because again, we have limited resources. We want to make sure that we don't hire ourselves for something that once they get into it, they're going to find out that it's much more expensive than what they pitched as a first year initial cost.
I would say we applied risk factors, as an overall component. I don't know that we specifically applied risk to the cost component,
Or evaluation, but I don't see it as an evaluation factor though.
yeah, I guess probably where we can characterize that we applied risk, most would be in maturity, in platform maturity. I mean, platforms that are made and functioning and in use in other basins, potentially carry a lower level of risk that they're going to work than platforms that are underdeveloped or potentially would be developed if selected for this project. There is a certain amount of risk associated with cost. It's at least in this case, it's an acreage-based fee. But the way it's currently structured in the updated proposal is that we're only charged for acreage based on sort of active acreage, so areas where the properties that have wells, the acreage of the properties that have wells, as you know, in the EMA, there's a lot of whether we've got maybe inactive acreage where we have grazing land or other things one way to limit cost was to only apply the cost factor to active acreage. And that is a way to mitigate that cost. And then if new wells are drilled on parcels that don't have wells, then potentially that cost would increase. But, I don't necessarily see that we're going to see a huge expansion of wells, potentially with agronomic trends. 2, it's at 25, cents an acre. So it's not going to have, an major increase in costs. And then I guess 3, the pricing model that is included in the proposal is until you reach 60,000 active acres, and we would currently be at 45,000. So we need to add another 15,000 of active acres. The pricing theory would change, at least based on that.
But you don't think we would realize this, an additional cost, because it says a one-time implementation fee, so that's the 60,000 that you budgeted, or it's what they priced in their proposal? You're confusing.
The 60,000, there's 2 60,000s there. I believe it was $60,000 budgeted, but then there's a 60,000 active acres threshold that would lead to an increase. If you exceeded that, then the cost would increase from there.
Okay, and so what is your risk with respect to, I guess, achieving that end state, year 2 or year 3, if we were to adopt this proposal?
I think the risk of exceeding 60,000 active acres is very low. That would require very large parcels, thousands of acre parcels to all of a sudden, now become actively, at least in this definition, I understand it have a well, so now become active agricultural or active residential.
Again, I gotta ask this question. Are the other 3 providers priced similarly? Is there a metric based on active acres?
The other 3
I don't
providers,
understand what active acres has to do with software.
that's just the pricing.
Software cost or maintenance cost of software.
And I'd like to let Nate Page jump in here. He's got his hand up. Nate has been on our team assisting with the evaluation of this.
Hey, y'all. Yeah, actually, I wanted to respond to an earlier question as well. I was, performing a lot of the review of these different software platforms. And I did actually reach out to a user of the MLJ platform to see how their experience had been. I emailed with Justin Mendez, who is the general manager of the North Fork Kings GSA. And he had positive comments to share. So I just wanted to share that with you all. And then in terms of cost, there is the upfront cost that's kind of setting everything up, but I think the other big piece is what are ongoing costs with these different platforms. And the other options, the ESA option has about a $22,000 a year hosting and management expense, and so that's a little higher. The Purvis and Pritchard option had a lower one at about 10,000 for the year, and neither of those, neither ESA or Purvis and Pritchard, had any consideration of what we're calling active acres. That was just kind of a flat fee for those firms. But MLJ has a pricing model that they've rolled out in other basins and have explained to other clients, and they have an understandable need to maintain a consistent pricing model between various clients. And so it did come down to, well, how many acres are in play here? It was a pretty simple exercise looking at the assessment we did for the groundwater extraction fee this past year. There were a number of parcels that had active water use, active groundwater use, and we summed that up, hence the 45,000 acres of what we're calling active acres. So they plugged that into their pricing model. That's the story there.
That's just a made up metric
Well,
to tier their pricing. So I can't buy into that at all.
Yeah, I mean, and you didn't even mention the St. Anne's River Water Conservation District. What was their cost? You have that evaluated as lowest, but you didn't even give a metric for that.
I don't know, Nate, do you have ready access to the conservation district proposal?
Yeah, I'm looking at the matrix that was shared by Brian, one of the CAG members. So I don't have the actual proposal up. I should, but what I'm seeing here is 14K for year one, 10K per year average after.
Which one?
That was
On the Amber, does that sound right?
Conservation district.
Did we get feedback from the CAG? Maybe we can talk to them also.
I've got from the
Okay.
St. Anne's River Water Conservation District right there, back of the room. So
Yeah.
the CAD's no, I understand.
You wanted, I'm sorry, what was your exact question?
Well, the question was, what is the first year cost that was in the proposal for this service by St. Anne's River Water Conservation District? So the number that was given was 14K for year one and then 10K recurring thereafter.
That is correct.
Okay.
It was 14,000 for year one, not to exceed, and year two was 96.45, year three was 10,107, and year four was 10,545.
Okay. And then, so we only looked at 1 year. We looked at all 4 years. We maybe find a better deal by going with them as opposed to MLJ. We looked at it from a cost standpoint. But we don't know because you only have the first year evaluated.
Yeah, I mean,
And then there's a licensing fees too, so you have to add that in.
yeah, I mean, I think the licensing fee, the ongoing cost that we want to evaluate, the licensing fee of 15,000 is higher than the conservation district's license fee. It's higher than the Provost and President's license fee, I believe. But, you know, we looked at a variety of factors, and that was the basis of our recommendation.
So what was it?
Including ownership of platform.
Yeah, I mean, what was in their proposal that said you don't control the data for the EMA? I don't understand that comment. I can see how some of the constituents in the EMA are already in the San Ynez River Water Conservation District, but about 2/3, I believe, were outside of their control. But if they're just doing the billing, why would they have ownership of the data? Why wouldn't you?
I mean, that's how it was presented to us, that, you know, they would have their data management system and then export data to the GSA as on a, you know, periodic or as requested basis, but we would not have, our understanding is we wouldn't have direct control of that data set.
Seems like there's ability, you would have the ability to negotiate that and obtain that if you insisted on that. It seems like you've dismissed them because of criteria 1 and not for maybe the other reasons that or your evaluation factors would suggest that they were a better deal.
Well, I mean, we need,
That could be some guidance, right? That could be some good guidance to go back for negotiation. Along with the cap on,
Yeah,
the acreage.
I'm just thinking that this is an incomplete evaluation, that's all. That's my take on this. But others may have a different opinion, so I'm all ears.
We hear from the CAG, or should we take public comment? And that way the CAG can give us their input. Do you have other questions?
Not at this time.
Okay.
I have another question as to whether you contemplated confidentiality of the data. And we talked about whether it could be exported for other reasons. But I know in outreach that we've had, when people have had resistance to cooperate, they want to know that the data is going to be confidential and not, you know, read about their water production in some publication. So I think we should anticipate we're going to get that request. I think we should have a policy around it if we haven't done it yet, so that we can answer that question and also understand, you know, what our confidentiality policy is with regard to the data we get, because I think it's silent on how that's going to get handled.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you have 3 firms that bid this and then you have an agency that bid this. So I would think the agency would have to follow whatever policy they have in place for confidentiality. I don't know if these 3 firms offered in their proposals anything along those lines, but I agree. I think landowners would want a right to privacy with their data.
yeah, and that's important. We've had conversation with the legal counsel about confidentiality. We've got questions in the past. You know, obviously we would follow all the rules and regulations with respect to data confidentiality. We wouldn't be publishing people's water usage data or other things for their neighbors to investigate. And that would, you know, be a requirement of all.
Thank you.
All right, ready for public comment? Anybody in the public want to speak? Okay.
Yeah, I'm being Fontaine, I'm on the company. And, at the end of the proposals, the discussion that we did have was that we had no statement of work, and we agreed it was very difficult to evaluate any of the presentations without knowing of the requirements. So to me, that was a big deal. So several, of the other 10 members spoke up about that. And so we requested a statement of work and copies of the presentations. And then we agreed that we would have a meeting on the 15th of January. After we got that stuff, we had a chance to digest it. Then we would have a discussion and come up with some sort of a recommendation for you all as to which supplier we thought would be the best for our organization. That meeting was not, we didn't get cancellation notice. We only got 2 days prior to that, the notification that our next meeting would be in February. So we never had a thorough discussion about this. Now, I don't know who the individual CAG members were who spoke to staff. I certainly didn't. So I don't know who provided input. And that's why.
Oh, you just said that the citizen advisory group did make a recommendation to staff. Staff is making a recommendation with us without having the CAG buy-in.
Well, Dan said that he got input from the CAG, but he didn't.
Okay, it was input. Okay, all right.
Recommendation, that's correct, because we never had a thorough discussion.
Was it your expectation that you guys were gonna make a recommendation? Or you got your questions answered?
I thought so,
Okay,
yeah,
that's a reasonable expectation.
I mean, that's the way we always operated. Now, we're supposed to operate differently, then maybe we need to take another look at the CAG role and responsibilities. So, I mean, there are other people who were there, I don't know, Mary was there, I don't know what the position was, or if she perhaps provided input directly to. Yeah, but I did not.
Any other comments?
And I sent Dan an email out. And my comment was that we must hire them to do the job. They're the experts at doing this whole thing. And I asked Dan in that email in a positive manner, take a more leadership role in helping the CAG understand what it is that they're looking for, would enable them to do a better job running it. It's common. And all these databases, things on there, and where it's all coming from. They have to run it. And it has to be workable. And they don't have a very big staff, so you're gonna have somebody, whoever you hire is able to do that. And so that was the gist of my email to them. This is your business. You guys know it. Tell us what it is that you need to make this work. And I appreciate your comments about watching and how much it costs. But sometimes you get what you pay for. And you gotta be careful that it can work. Because there's a lot at stake here. And they have to be able to make it work. And so I would caution you to you hire them to do the job, let them do that. Let's be aware of what it is they're doing, but give them the leeway. They have to make it work. So I would listen to what they propose. I think it's great questions. And we're all concerned about how much it's going to cost. It's going to cost a lot of money, whoever you hire to do this, but we want to make sure that it's streamlined and it works well. Thank you.
Any more public comment? Mary?
My name is Mary Hayden, and I was also at the CAG meeting. It was very interesting. I did make notes of the 4 presentations. Gosh, they were all like, I would say initially the CAG's response was very financially driven as to what was going to cost us the most, what was going to cost the least, and it seemed like most people were leaning towards what was going to cost the least. But I also felt like we weren't fully prepared for all these presentations, and so there's a lot of information that came kind of quickly, and so her Katie's comment, you know, we asked for the proposals of all of them or the presentations from all of them, and then did get to see them. What I had realized at the time of the CAD was that Prop 68 could help us fund at least that first year, and that tends to be the most expensive year. So that, okay, kind of moved me a little bit. Also, there was another comment from the public about who owns the data and how flexible will it be. And so I thought that was also very interesting. I also want just here, this data has to, the software or whatever the program has to be very, I'm hoping it's very flexible. I did get to look at it a little bit. I didn't get to actually try and put stuff in. But you kind of mark, your parcels and then mark your, wells and then say where those wells, which parcel those wells feed to. And so my family owns 8,000 acres. We have, I don't know, 8 running wells, I don't know. So ultimately, 8,000 acres are going to be potentially active because we have to run, water troughs that, to all our cattle. So I don't know if that would, even though not all of our parcels have wells, all of our parcels are affected by those wells. So that's something to contribute. I have in my notes, it's 25 cents an acre, and if we have 82,000 acres, it would be $20,500 annually. And I don't, in the proposal, I think initially they were not going to include the district area. So I don't know if the 82,000 acres is in district area or not. I also want to say I agree completely with Mr. Circle there that historically landowners are extremely private. And so there's got to be something that makes them feel confident that their information will be viewed by a very, very small group of people for them to want to give this information. Oh, and then what I didn't think about until more recently is then, so this data is collected and that has to be flexible too. I hope it doesn't have to be every month, but that it can be every 6 months, or it can be when people can do it. And then, so you get the data and then how does that data then get to the building? And who does that? And is that also going to be something that MLJ does? I don't believe it says that in their proposal. Is it still going to be, is it going to be, how is that going to work? So I think those are my comments. Thank you.
Can I have a question? Did you say you saw all the proposals?
Yeah.
Well,
I had to look at and send those out.
I didn't get them.
Oh, I did.
Okay.
Sorry.
And then, I wrote down one note that said 25 cents per acre. That's the well registration piece. So that sounds to me like it was based on the number of wells as opposed to total number of acres. Is that? Is anybody? Yes.
It's 20, well, the current proposal is 25 cents per acre of active parcels, for parcels with wells.
But I also said, and I also wrote down at the time, that was for the well registration piece of their price.
It's my understanding, it's for the whole platform, it's well registration and reporting.
Well, that's what they said.
That's what they're,
Also, they made one comment and said, the software is, quote, kind of flexible. I don't know what that means. I didn't get a chance to ask anybody during the presentations, so I'd like to know what that meant.
Any more public comment? Anybody else? Is there some online?
Yes.
Rigid.
Curtis, I'm the you have permission now if you would like to get your public comment.
Oh, hi. This is Curtis. I work for Stetson Engineers. And Stetson, we work for both the San Ynez River Water Conservation District and the San Ynez River Water Conservation District Improvement District number 1. So really, I'm just listening in and I just wanted to share some perspective on the topic of what's going to be happening with the rest of the basin. And right now, we're working on developing an online reporting and well registration system that's right now targeted to go public in July of this year for the parent district. And just so everyone understands that currently the WMA and CMA because their boundaries basically coincide with the district boundaries, they don't have this issue with the EMA where there's a larger area outside of the district boundary. They're planning to use this online platform from the agency, the district. So that is in motion and it's real and it's going to go in effect this year. And that's currently what the other management areas are going to intend to use for both well registration and groundwater production. I've been listening and I just thought I'd share that. Thank you.
Another hand up.
Yes, Stephen Jordan, you may unmute. Stephen, do you have a public comment?
You have to unmute him or?
He has to unmute himself, but I gave him permission to. He might not be there.
Right, step away.
Hmm.
Okay, is there anybody
Can you hear
else?
me? I found the right button. Sorry about that. I'm on the Ynez board and an alternate here, so I guess I should comment in the public comment period. I'm concerned that as each of these GSAs do stuff on individual methods, they lose sight of the overall cost. And if we have one agency doing it one way, and we are now going to be measuring, we measure part of the EMA right now and do the metering. And when you did the last report, you did not consider that information to your own. And if we don't coordinate these agencies, it's going to be it's not going to be cost effective and be redundant. And when I was at the public hearings for this thing, all they talked about was redundancy, overlapping, confusion, and money. I think if we're not careful, we're just going to get further down that road. So, that's all my comment.
I'm sure.
One last comment. Is there anybody else online to share?
There was a comment in the chat, from one of the CAG members, Levy.
Okay.
As the conservation district's proposal indicated, DMS was supposed to deploy in June. Curtis just mentioned July. Has deployment already slipped 1 month?
Yeah. Peter.
Thanks.
Later.
Peter Garcia, ID1. I just wanted to make public comment because Mr. Lawler noted from the Stetson firm that he represents the Conservation District and ID number 1, which is true. That firm has represented both our agencies for going on 60 years. I just didn't want that representation to be a representation that ID1 is necessarily supporting the Conservation District proposal. I'm more of the mind of the point Mr. Merrill made, which is you have a very well-reasoned staff report. You put your trust and faith in competent staff. They've done an exhaustive process. They've made a very clear recommendation. They've identified various concerns with other proposals, including ownership of data, which is critical so that the EMA staff can have ownership, control, access, direct access, so it can be manipulated for data analysis, for annual reporting, key responsibilities of the EMA. They need direct access to this data, not for it to be shared by someone else on contractual terms or something. It needs to be our data so that we can do the things like enforcement, customer communication, billing, all these types of things. So your staff has made a recommendation at a cost that's half of what's been budgeted, and it's grant reimbursable cost. So I'm inclined as a member of GSA and staff, member of the GSA, to just put a lot of faith and trust in your own staff. Thank you.
Okay, we'll bring it back. Any other discussion points?
So I think we identified a problem that we don't have an answer for, that the 25 cents per acre is irrigated acres. And so we need a definition of what irrigated acres are because of the comment that Mary made. And that could get you, in Mary's comment, it would be small number of acres that are actually irrigated acres. But if we use the larger number of 8,000 acres, there's lots of ranchering operations which have similar requirements for cattle water. We could very easily go up in a lot of acres if we don't make that definition clearer.
Yeah, I misspoke, yeah, it doesn't necessarily need to be here, the basis of the 40,000 acres that was included in the proposal, is the basis of the 15,000 feet. Dollar fee was the acreage of the parcels that we sent a groundwater extraction fee to. So we had done an evaluation of, these are parcels that either have active agriculture as mapped by Land IQ, and DWR, or that have, defined structures and buildings that we can tell from an aerial photo that we think somebody here is using water. Yeah, there may be a cattle trough on a parcel that may have slipped through that, so we would need to make that adjustment or make the policy decision that.
Yeah, I think a policy decision, otherwise we would be over the current proposal right away, probably. Because you could get 15,000 acres pretty quickly.
You could, and if we did, we'd still be at this pricing structure at the, it's coincidental numbers, the $15,000 a year still.
So the tier is meaningless?
I understand it.
Then negotiate it out of the contract, then have it go away. Then we
And
eliminate
if
that.
that's the direction we want, we can try to negotiate, the pricing is, as we have been told, is until it's a minimum fee until you reach 60,000 active acres. And we're at 40,000 active acres. 45,000 active
That
acres.
is. How does the MLJ validate that? Based on their tracking the data too?
Well, I'm not a software as a service provider. I can't answer that. We do have a representative from LJ, Tara, if you want to speak to that, you don't have to, but that's.
Sure, yes. Can you tell me your question again? It's about the acreage, right?
It is. If I could frame the question just because I actually totally disconnected why that's a metric. Why it's even broken down to 25 cents per acre. I'm interpreting it as how you are coming about your pricing. And so could you tell us why that's necessary?
Why are we using 25 cents an acre?
Why is acre a measure for a database application?
Yeah, fair question. So actually, just to give you a brief background, MLJ's softwares are all for agricultural areas and all kind of water quality and water regulations related. And so our software is always marketed to and for growers. And so previously our softwares were all for the Irrigated Lands Regulatory Program. A lot of the time, those water quality coalitions in the Central Valley are charging their members per acre. And so it makes sense for them, their members, it justifies it in their minds as well, if then our software is also per acre. So the GSAs that we work with are all agricultural GSAs, whose landowners are being typically charged by the GSA per acre. And so that's the same kind of pricing model that we use for our software product. And just to be clear, the 25 cents an acre kicks in once you reach 60,000 acres. So underneath 60,000 acres, anything below that is just the minimum baseline fee of $15,000.
And is there another tier?
There's no tiers beyond
Not after 60,000 acres.
Right, so beyond that, it just kicks into the 25 cents an acre. So 60,000, it's
But you're not
60,000
adding any, this is a little bit silly, because you're not adding that any more rows in the database, and you're not managing anything more, and software maintenance and management is not more burden based on us adding another acreage to our territory. Makes no sense. It's totally disconnected.
I take your complaint very seriously, and I totally understand as well.
I mean, I understand if you're speaking the language of your buyers, but doesn't translate.
Understood, yeah.
I mean, there, as you go up, maybe not necessarily in acres, but in parcels, you now have additional logins, you have additional customer service. I mean, there is some scaling that, you know, is, I think that happens, like, it's on a software service provider.
Yeah.
Okay.
Could you explain the long-term scalability then? That was your evaluation criteria and what exactly you meant by that? Because you judged 2 proposals as good and 2 as limited. And I want to understand the definition for that metric that you used to evaluate all 4 proposals.
Nate, can you speak to that criteria?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so in terms of long-term scalability, this is looking a little beyond the current scope. And so it's just in case we want to move on to implementation of a groundwater allocation scheme. I'm not saying that's imminent or even like something that we would need to arrive at some point in the future, but softwares such as Watermark and ESA are built around like that kind of additional modular function. So that's already ready to go in platforms like Watermark. And I think it's just a useful feature to keep in mind that, you know, if the GSA matured to the point where that was necessary, you know, the tool that we already have is capable to expand in that direction without, you know, additional software development.
If I could just speak to the, you know, there was some concerns or comments raised around the CAG, and then there apparently may have been misunderstanding with the process that was gonna happen following the last CAG meeting. Our understanding was that we were going to email the requested materials to the CAG and then receive input via email, which we did receive from at least 3 CAG members. And so again, we did email the CAG the proposals and the you know, what was used to solicit the proposals.
So I have a couple of things. So on that point, what do we expect from the CAG? Are they supposed to vote and give us a majority vote, and what, or are they supposed to just give comments that we consider? What do we want from them?
Yeah, it's a great question. That's a conversation that me and Phil have had recently. It's our understanding that there's some potentially, significant Brown Act consideration. Maybe Phil, you can speak to this.
If you set up a CAG where it's providing formal recommendation by a vote before it becomes a full Brown Act committee, and that creates a lot of problems from, you know, getting everybody there. It kind of, in some ways, it hinders the process of using the CAG what it's for, which is a citizen advisory group for stakeholders that are interested, that are going to give you input and get their input. And you know, you always want to hear the minority report of those too. So in Indian Wells Valley, we have a policy advisory committee. It's set up like a planning commission, and it follows the Brown Act, and it's somewhat limiting. I mean, sometimes they'll meet and they won't have a quorum. So I would suggest that you don't have the CAG providing a formal recommendation. Instead, it's members of the public that you're getting input from and using it as a sounding board, making sure they get the information that they need so that they can reach out to you.
And I guess that's not exactly on our agenda to discuss, but so maybe I shouldn't go any further with that, but.
Yeah, it is in the bylaws, so that's the
Right.
way.
All right,
So
we'll wait till we get there. Let's see, my other, I'm prepared to put my trust in staff, and it, you know, if this evaluation is correct, then I think the maturity that it works elsewhere. I mean, I think that is very important, that we don't, you know, so that's something that's just in development makes me a little nervous. I I'm not sure, I think scale, you know, how useful this is gonna be over time, which I gather is scalability is important. So I'm prepared to move forward with this. I do have a question about what our bylaws say if I were the county voting on giving myself a contract, is that allowed? Or is a board member who's on the Conservation District Board, is that kosher? And I'd like a sense from our attorney how that would work.
That's covered in the JPA agreement, not the bylaws. And the JPA agreement says that you have to have a unanimous vote of the other board members. And the board member who represents the agency involved does not get to vote.
Okay, and participate in discussion, I guess it's not like.
They can participate in discussion because it is not a legal conflict of interest
Yeah.
opinion. You've just created a voting structure of JPA that unlike the.
Nor did I participate in the proposal process I'm just the director on that board, so.
Yeah, I
see a
mean,
conflict there.
in reality, they actually could vote if you didn't have this JPA division.
Yeah.
Uh,
So if we wanted, we would. Director Merrily can't vote, so we would need 4 votes.
You need unanimous vote of the other board members.
So.
Go ahead.
So I'm wondering whether, sending this back with a little more information and evaluation as to what the total costs are over time and, what having us on a different platform than the other 2 spaces, what does that cost to us over time? And because that's not contemplated here. And it sounds like the other 2 have already made a decision because of their affiliation with the parent district. So, I mean, I'd like to understand more about the total cost with regard to that. We just had a joint effort that came in at $8,000 over budget.
Yeah.
You know, we're gonna have, you know, costs there that we haven't contemplated. So I'd like to understand that better. And that would also give us time to send it back to the CAG for the meeting that they thought they were gonna have.
I'm with you on that because and I'd like to understand if we delayed, how quickly we could get some further, more detailed feedback, because if we were to approve other things in the agenda, we're not coming back together for another 2 months. And I worry about timing, but I do feel like some diligence would earn more confidence from my perspective on a number of things, right? Which is multi-year view of the cost, a validation of, you know, if we were to scale and what are the risk profile, if we do scale, what are those costs? I think we need to revisit the policy and privacy. And if this is the data that is the basis for our billing platform, we need to understand the interlock and the flexibility and what can be done with that data. So if this is integrating with the billing system, which it sounds like that's coming, or that's the next phase.
But we have a billing system.
Yeah, but you already have your billing system criteria all laid out, and then that's the basis for how you make a database decision today. Right, because you can't find out that you're stovepiped. And then you're limited to what your billing system choices can do later. So here's a question, Dan, for you. If we delay, what's the implication?
So, I mean, primary implications are going to be one, schedule. I mean, we've adopted a metering reporting ordinance that kicks in July of 2027. So there's some time. But before we do that, we really need to go through this registration exercise so that we know who to outreach and who to ensure is complying with that metering and reporting ordinance. There's going to be additional costs associated with staff time, redoing, updating the evaluation and doing these other things that, it takes time to do these things. So there's going to be that cost in the interim. I mean, some of these things are not a big deal, data confidentiality, integration with building, multi-year costs. I mean, that's pretty easy. But yeah, those are the primary applications. I would think just lots of time moving towards our goals and just the additional staff time costs associated with bringing them back with an updated evaluation.
But you could bring this back in March if you needed to with CAG input in February.
Yeah, yeah, we can do that. It's just, tightens the window.
Well, I heard someone who's ready and someone who'd like more time. So do you have a consensus on how we feel about doing more diligence?
I mean, I'll make a recommendation that we send it back for more information, and the cost and out the items we just enumerated.
Can I make a comment on that? I mean, we have for the grant, I think, through February 2027 for reimbursable costs. So by delaying 2 months, we're not gonna jeopardize not being able to get reimbursed, but it would allow maybe a more thorough package to come back to the board that everybody would be comfortable with.
I'd like to have the one that we also understand this linkage between this data and the actual invoices that are going to go out, because it's not clear to me.
The property tax.
Yeah.
Is there.
I listened to everybody, and I've been quiet here. But what I really look at is the evaluation criteria that was established. And it talks about, foremost is the need for the EMA GSA to maintain direct ownership, access, and control. That's big. If we can't control our data and use it whenever we want, it's worthless, okay? I look at the chart here, and I see some checks and I see a no. So that's a big item there. Then the next one, ordinance compliance. Our ordinances state that the EMA, Sigma gives us the direction, and this is our purpose, is to run this organization, and well owners report to us. They don't report to anybody else. That's what our ordinances say. So you can't have some other agency they report to. They have to report to us. So that's important. Long-term flexibility. I'm looking down these lists. I see some checks that mean they're done. I see some limited. I see planned. Plan means it's never been done. It's just being planned. That's not good. Intensive staff. My God, our staff is so small. They can't take any more workloads. We kill them before. So this is kind of neat. This is going to take care of that. So our staff doesn't have to do a bunch more work. That's huge. Or developing costs, as Kevin Merrill said, you get what you pay for. I've learned that lesson too much in my life. And then long-term scalability, that's important. It's got to be able to grow and mature with our agency here. And that's another big thing. Otherwise, you're buying into something that's limited. So those are my points. I think the graph was good. It says a lot, but I agree. I'd like to know what I paid for. That's important. Those costs. And on that same bit, I hate to go here, guys. I'm ID1. We pay already. We pay the conservation district for information. That's public information. It's already paid for by us. I don't like getting double charged. I'm going to tell my customers, you got to pay twice for the same information. That doesn't go over well. Plus, I hear that, the conservation district doesn't even cover our whole EMA. So there's people out there that are not paying and pumping. And so there's all sorts of inconsistencies. I just don't like to see that mesh happening, because we're going to get into a world of issues. So, but anyway, I think staff did a fairly good job here of getting this information. I don't want to delay beyond where we cause more problems, but I do like to know, there's at least some close ballpark figures on numbers. And like I say, all the pumpers right now paid once for the reporting and information. And that's going to be an issue. It's going to come up later about double charges. So, it's my input. And Dan, let's say, you did a good job. This is rough. You did a good job.
If it's appropriate, I try to answer a couple of the questions that have been raised now. I think one, the integration with billing, if the EMA GSA wants to continue utilizing the tax roll, the integration is really easy. It's partial APN in the well registration and metering production database, input into the property tax form. And it's a one-step process using on old school a VLOOKUP or, on these days. But I don't see integration being a problem in either way. I mean, if we were going to switch to direct billing, that's a whole other thing, regardless of what platform we're going to. Now we're sending out bills and we're chasing people down. Like, if we're sick with the property tax roll, the billing integration is easy. I mean, the data confidentiality, each user would have its own unique login and password. I mean, they are only accessing their data. The staff obviously would have access to all of it. I don't know, Tara, if you can speak to security, but I mean, I'm sure there's firewalls and all the tech things that are.
Yes, yeah, it's a cloud-based platform. It's all securely hosted. We don't share your data with anybody. That's in our SaaS agreement as well. The data doesn't belong to MLJ, the data belongs to the GSA. And as Dan said, it's individual logins for each landowner. They can only see their own parcels and wells. And then the GSA administrator, whoever that is, in this case, the GSA staff, has access to all.
Cost over time, I mean, I think in the basic evaluation of that is what is the software as a service? I think the proposal we have here is 15,000. We heard the conservation district's proposal was 10,000. And then the other services ranged, the ESA was, I think, higher and the provost was lower, but like it's potentially a less mature platform. Integration with other management areas, I can't speak to that here today. I mean, that's obviously depending on what direction they move to, but, yeah, just trying to provide as much information as I can.
And 60,000 acre, the issue that Elizabeth was raising, we didn't have an answer.
Well, I guess what I can say, and I'm not sure I fully know what the question is, but I mean, we're at 45,000 acres of what we call active acreage by the definition that we had, which was we sent them a bill for a groundwater extraction fee. If we changed our criteria for who we're billing, or we get new information with the well registration process, like when we actually solicit these people, and we find out that there's wells in these parcels that we didn't think had wells, because frankly, there's nothing in the aerial photography that would indicate that they're using water. Meaning there's no active agriculture that's mapped, and, or, there's no houses or, other structures or development. But they may have a water trough for cattle. That would probably be something, again, to Doug's point, maybe a policy decision on how we would handle that. So that could increase the acreage. I guess I would say that based on this structure, the way it's set up, we would have a 15,000 acre buffer before we would see an increased cost associated with that. So we have to bring in more than 15,000 more acres of active acreage.
What's the increase in cost then?
Well, then at that point, it would be 25 cents per acre for every acre above 60,000 of active acres.
Per year.
Per year.
And you guys, did you differentiate between pasture land versus row crops? Is that, so it's all acting the same?
They all got a groundwater extraction fee. We differentiated the fee because it was based on satellite evaporation estimates of water usage. But I mean, they all got a bill. Yeah.
Okay, and then rangeland, that'd be different than pasture, but that's not irrigated. That's just a cow trough out in the middle of nowhere. So did they differentiate from that? To me, that would be inactive.
How much water?
I don't know how much water a cow trough would use. I mean, that would be something we could revisit this summer when we're getting ready for the next round of, but that's, It's not something we have, but I mean, we have to do some research to figure out how much water we pay.
These costs get passed on to the payer. And we have a responsibility to cap runaway costs. There's no way we can calculate what that potential risk is or upside. We could imagine scenarios, but they've got you. I'm laughing because this was my business. We're having a conversation because they've thrown you, a tennis ball, and it is irrelevant to the cost of their software. I guarantee it. So I would suggest, if we could, ask the vendor to cap the upside costs and give us a second tier and give us an estimate what that second tier, once we cross that 45,000, and cap it at that cost.
Or remove it
Or remove
altogether.
it altogether. Okay, we brought it back, so I'm gonna
I
try
mean-
I'm gonna try to convert Doug's to a motion. So we had a motion to go in and recommend if we get back for a little bit evaluation. I think you answered some questions. So we have another motion.
For point of order, I just want to clarify with my attorney here. I have to abstain from this vote.
You can sit it. Let's go back to what the motion.
Well, because I'm with the San Ynez River Water Conservation.
The motion
We're
is
not-
just-
we're not
we're
gonna
not
get
voting.
this. We have one
You
motion, but-
you cannot vote if the motion was to adopt software for the San Ynez. But you
Okay,
can vote on this motion because it's just table it to come back further.
okay, got
Okay,
it.
back to point of order. We don't have one motion. I don't have a second. And I converted your suggestion to a motion.
One question. If we gave Dan direction to eliminate that provision, and could it go forward?
Could be a condition to the motion. Or a second, or a different motion.
Okay. I mean, I'm just discussing it. If we gave that direction, we could be done today.
Yes.
in this, because that's the only big outstanding issue, other than process for the CAG. But I think we make it, if we're not using them as a planning commission, but we're using them, I think they've given us a lot of, insight already. So I just want to get a sense of the board, if we could get that, if Dan could negotiate to get rid of that provision, could we give him permission to execute this agreement?
So my motion also includes understanding the integration of a separate platform to the other platforms and what that may cost us. That is an unforeseen cost today, and having that identified for us and have the confidentiality identified, have the billing understanding, which we don't have today.
I think he answered much of that, but you want more detail, it sounds like,
So
so.
wanted multi-year costs, but that was, could be with profit, that would answer.
Right.
I need a second, or a different.
Why,
motion.
what is the motion? What did
Motion was to send it back for more detail, and the detail would be, negotiate with the cap, multi-year costs, detail, a policy for data protection, data security. Which I think even though they've answered the question, I think we still need a written policy that guarantees to the user of the portal that we have a policy of data protection. And then the last one was,
The
the
integration.
integration of the data to Ynez methodology.
And also the data compatibility with the other two areas so that the both basin reporting is, what are there additional costs to be considered if we're on different platforms?
Yes, that's a
They'll get that
DWR
back.
question. too. So how do we integrate them to them?
Or the motion will die if I don't get a second, or we need a different motion.
I'll second it.
And we need a roll call vote, is that right?
Can you read the motion, Dan? Can I? It's a big motion there. And we're just gonna
I'll
send
be
it back.
honest, I was relying upon the recording to get the motion afterwards, but I mean, I think I can try to paraphrase and you can let me know what I'm missing, but the motion would be for staff to go back and evaluate a number of items or questions, related to this, cost over time, cost to integrate with other management areas, data confidentiality, and integration with, building.
And the acreage differential?
And the acreage cap or the cost cap.
Yeah, because you got it. And there's a difference between cattle out in some old hillside versus row crops. And
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, so we can get some input from the software vendor on what they consider active acreage. But, we also potentially, that does potentially present more policy issue too, that the board would need to provide direction on.
So we'd like the recommendation on the policy issue, once you've done that research, added to the motion.
And this will be within a month. We'll meet again. In a month, next month.
I think is the next scheduled meeting.
Yeah.
Next, well, we haven't gotten there yet, but what has been proposed under a new meeting cadence would be every other month board meetings and intermeeting.
I just want to make certain that we're not putting this way off and it's gonna hurt us. It's gonna put us behind on stuff, get things rolling. Do we need to make it sooner than 2 months out?
Yeah, if that's the direct importance, we could, we're happy to have this proposal meeting. I think even arguably our current meeting schedule calls for monthly meetings, and again, that was 25, so we don't actually have it.
I think the real question is, if we were to make a yes decision or a directive and take action on the contract in 2 months' time, Dan, does that put you in disadvantage? Or
Yes.
dependency on something else?
It shortens the time we have to complete this registration process before metering and reporting. Now, right, we do have to still get the contract from DWR approved and get the consultant on board. So, but I mean, ideally, if we get this approved, then we can scope that contract and then we can hit the ground running.
We have a date for next month if that's critical.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we have just a different decision and we're here in this meeting. Okay. Okay, so can we do a roll call vote now that we've got clarity on the motion?
Yes.
And I guess, why is this a roll call vote? Or just preference? Okay.
Just pretty much need that room bad.
Gotcha, okay. Director Circle,
Yes.
Director Hartman,
No.
Director Merriman,
Yes.
Director Jones,
Yes.
Chair Arona.
Yes.
All right.
All right.
Yeah, motion passes.
All right, let's move on. Item 4D. Review and consider approval of the professional services agreement with Moss, Levy, and for the professional audit services for FY year ended June 30th, 2025. And for the EMA GSA to perform biannual audits going forward. Dan, you want to read in the summary or?
Yeah, sorry, yeah, I'm getting there. As a joint powers authority, we have a requirement to perform financial audits. Those audits can be done annually or every 2 years with approval from the board. To support this, we solicited proposals from 3 firms. We received 2 proposals. One from Moss, Levy, Hartzheim, and the other one from Bartlett, Pringle, and Wolf. Based on the results of those proposals, largely based on, one consideration was cost, so the cost difference wasn't that much. We were recommending Moss, Levy, and Hartzheim. They have a very slightly lower cost, it's like $90. the $15,000 proposal, but they are also the auditor that is doing the EMA and GSA's audits, so there may be some benefits to that as we're all working, all the GSAs are working under the same grant. So our recommendation would be to consider approval of the professional services agreement with Moss, Levy, and Hartzheim. And for the EMA GSA to perform biannual audits moving forward, primarily at cost saving.
So were there anybody else consulted to bid on it besides those two?
Yeah, we solicited 3 proposals. We solicited a proposal from Nigro and we get the proposal,
So they didn't respond, okay.
Yeah, so included is the proposal / qualifications. Also a list of clients, a very extensive list with other similar governmental organizations, both locally and afar. That concludes my presentation.
Any questions?
They sure have a list of clients, I noticed,
Yeah.
that very impressive clients. They're not new to the game.
Will we accept the recommendation?
Second. Okay, do we need public comment for this?
Yes.
Okay, public comment. You don't know anything. No, it's okay. So these are really before, after motion. Public comment, was it in the room, anybody, online?
No hands are raised online.
Okay, I thought you said it was.
No, I don't
Okay.
think it's after.
Okay, any public comment then? All right, bring it back, we have a motion and a second, is there a comment?
Oh, I was playing to the screen, sorry.
Okay.
No.
We have a valid motion and a second. We just want to do a vote?
Yeah.
Okay.
We gotta figure out a new dynamic. Do you want to say all in favor or do you want me to say?
I can say it all in favor then.
Aye.
I feel like I'm voting I shouldn't be asking for.
I'm happy to do it. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I can do that before. Any opposed? Make sure there wasn't any. Open up. Okay. Motion passed.
all right, moving on. Item E. You consider approval of the 2026 EMA GSA meeting schedule.
Yeah, so
What
we.
you were all referring to, we're reading ahead.
Yes, so we've talked about this. I'll be brief, in the interest of time. With the decision at the December meeting to sort of further engage the CAG as part of the process of the replacement to agency staff meetings, we've proposed an alternating schedule with board meetings 1 month and then CAG meetings the next month. Just as a way to sort of through a workflow where we can get input from the CAG and then bring items to the board. That will be an ideal workflow on most items. We may not always have time to take every item to CAG, just not set that expectation there, but that was our goal. So, what we do with the data management system. And then with joint management area meetings, we got direction from the board at our last meeting that, we will still want to keep those joint management area meetings scheduled. And, but only hold them if there's substantive things for the joint management areas to discuss. For example, the meeting on March 13th is envisioned as the meeting for review and approval consideration for the joint annual report for water year 24-25. So this is the proposed schedule.
Okay, great. Any questions, comments?
Is this time day working out for everybody? The staff and directors?
We still have our special meeting, right?
Always the potential for a special meeting, in accordance with what's outlined in the joint powers authority.
Good.
I'll make a recommendation that we adopt a schedule, adding that special meeting next month, but otherwise
Second.
Seconded, is that?
Mhm.
That's been great. Do we need?
All in favor?
Are we gonna discuss it or not?
Oh, well, actually, we need to do public comment.
Do we need public comment? All right. Any public comment? None in the room, online?
So just want to clarify, what day are we talking about in February for the special meeting? You'll have a CAG meeting on the 19th, so it can't be that day, I assume.
Okay, and then.
Well, would it be on Thursday or are we breaking our cadence?
We have,
Well, theirs is the third
These are-
Thursday, ours is the fourth.
yeah, we showed the 26th.
26, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
just want a little clarity, that's all.
We'll get you clarity.
So we're adding the February 26th meeting.
Right.
That's what we're voting on.
Yeah. Same place, same time.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe it'd be helpful. Would you want us to also have a CAG meeting or?
We have
Yeah,
it
you
on
got
there for the 19th.
19.
Well, yeah, so these are scheduled, but it. I guess looking for direction for the board.
Based on the motion he made that we approved, I think what we just talked about on the prior topic, we'll get CAG feedback once the clarity is provided, right?
But yeah, I got to be specific to taking all this CAG, but we can do that if that's.
Yeah, we have, the motion was to approve everything and add one meeting in February.
Yeah, I guess like these are scheduled meetings. That doesn't necessarily mean that they happen, but yes.
Right, so if they come back with, their recommendations and turn around 1 week later, we could vote on it and.
Yeah, it's a little tight, during comments we got about agenda package, the publishing times. I would like a little more time between the CAG and the board meeting. That's why we propose month by month.
Okay.
But maybe we can move the CAG earlier.
Yeah, we could do that.
All right, how about we do that?
Just for that meeting.
Just for that meeting.
So you want to amend the motion?
Yes,
Because
so,
otherwise we would approve the 19th.
So I guess the amendment that you would consider adopting would be the 12th of February for the CAG meeting and then the special meeting on the 26th. That would give you enough flow time to.
Dan, what time, what do you need,
well, I mean. And. Tell me if I'm wrong. I mean, this is a planned schedule for meetings, but we would still retain the ability to cancel and have special meetings as necessary and in coordination with requirements of the JPA.
Their schedule for regular meetings,
Yeah.
special meetings and that is not really part of it.
But since we're talking about it, we should, we can try to plan for that. So yes, I think we were talking about a February 12th.
Okay.
Of CAG meeting, and then it would be, like I said, we approve this, is it a regular meeting or is it a special meeting?
It's special.
It's still a special meeting.
I would suggest you approve the schedule of meetings. The direction to staff, which is just general direction, we hear what you want, is to have a February meeting and a CAG meeting on the 26th. Respectively. And that is part of this adoption of this regular scheduled meeting process, but it is direction to staff, it would black on.
okay, then the motion stays the same.
So moved. Did we have a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Please.
Like staff, but,
Oh, they think they got it.
They got that.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to do a full-fledged big meeting. This is like, we know what we got to decide.
All right, we've got like 6 items on the informational items, so let's go.
Supposed to be done by 6, so. Time is money. Yeah, time is money, and I think we need to be more efficient.
So item, let's make sure. 5A? Yeah, all right, so the EMA bylaws, with focused discussion on CAG group and other provisions. not included in the joint powers agreement. In the interest of brevity, these are the latest version of the bylaws that we developed with coordination with legal counsel for the board's review and comment. We're not bringing them for approval consideration today. We received quite a bit of input, which was great from the CAG and the board and interested stakeholders, and have developed a comment response log to that input. It's included in your agenda packet. So as a way of acknowledging we heard you, and we, to our best professional judgment, they took the following action, either incorporated changes or maybe put some reasons why we didn't do that. And then just, I think one item on the structure, the bylaws as presented in here basically have any of the text that's in there is new text that's proposed as part of the bylaws. Anything that's from the JPA is included as reference. And we did that to aid in your review. We didn't want you to have to review everything and go, do I need to comment on that? Is that a bylaw or a JPA clause? If it's in here, it's a bylaw. If it's not, it's a JPA clause. Once we get the input today, and then we come back with the final proposed, we would combine it all into one document that'll be much more usable, and we'll use another way of differentiating what is language from the JPA and what's in the bylaws, just to aid the reader in their evaluation and use of the documents. So.
Yeah, just to give you an example, the question is going to be, how do you identify the future when you have a bylaw provision which starts with the JPA? This happens in Unicodes all the time. And what you do is at the end, you'll have a parenthesis ordinance such and such, that tells what ordinance that was. And parentheses, we'll just have parenthesis JPA section 12 parenthesis, and that way you can easily identify it. That's a JPA provision and where it's from.
Okay. Discussion? I thought it was really well laid out. I appreciate the way it was, track the changes. Any comments or input for Dan?
Well, just more, I have a few more comments that we've sent in and you haven't incorporated yet, but you've got them, so you'll have them in for them then.
Yeah, we got a lot of time. There was discussion earlier about wanting to talk about the CAG. And the approach to the CAG's sort of structure and formality, and I think this would maybe be appropriate time.
That would be an appropriate time. The question was, as I recall, are we clear on what we expect from that? That's I think what I heard. Okay.
And I guess more the specific question at hand is, I mean, do you want the CAG voting on a consensus recommendation, them having quorum requirements and the Brown Act, then they would be required to fill out Form 700s. And, that's the formal option, or there's, at least maybe what the approach we took to the last couple of CAGs meetings is a little more informal. We don't have quorum, we don't have Brown Act.
I thought that GSA legislation laid out the CAG's roles and responsibilities.
Well, it says you're supposed to take input from them. How you want to take input from them is a little bit of an open question. In Indian Coast Valley, we have what we call the Policy Advisory Committee. It was set up. Watch meetings back when we set it up. I set it up. We set it up specifically to like the planning commission. Full adoption, recommendations, and it's a full process through the Brown Act. The problem with that is it becomes a little cumbersome.
Yeah.
And we had meetings where we did have forums, but we needed input. So my personal suggestion is you want to use this as a sounding board. You want input, but you don't want to hamstring yourself. So when you set up a CAG so that it's a good sounding board with people on it, if you're getting them the information, they're going to respond to you. And that's better than setting up a process that turns them into a Brown Act.
Sure, I agree, and I think that in preparing our GSP, we had a program where someone on the CAG would write the notes from the CAG as to what was discussed and their position on things, and they were not formal motions, but it was, it was capturing the CAG's views and feelings, and I think that was adequate then. I would just recommend that we, reinstate that policy.
Yeah, because I hate to get them bogged down and so they can't produce anything. Because there originally is to be, in addition to our outreach, we're giving like a double outreach, so we make certain we get our public giving us input.
Yes, and to be clear, you're kind of speaking of minutes, which are generally sometimes considered, right, chicken and minutes of a workshop. And they're gonna tell you what the consensus was, and the minutes would kind of say if there's others that have different opinions, but it's not a formal recommendation one way. So there's no problem putting in this, that, you know, have somebody write minutes and figure out consensus.
I would like to underscore that because it was one note that I highlighted. We should have minutes and maybe it would have cleared up some of the discussion today on what did or didn't happen in the CAD. So I would encourage us to request or
I'm
find a
sure we
format.
had a formal policy on that in the past that we could just readopt but I mean, it functioned well.
EWS can be a tool for people like us. Just see what's coming. Okay.
I agree. I think, it's particularly well suited and we've benefited tremendously from their insights into how some of these abstract concepts might actually work in application. So I think that's great. I think if we formalized it more, I think it would require more of our staff. And that's an issue as well. So I'm supportive.
Just a clarifying question, I guess the input that we're receiving is, we want to keep it informal, but we want minutes, but we want the CAG members to prepare minutes. That's how it was done in the
Well,
past.
the CAG members are here, but my recollection is that the minutes, or if you were calling them that, rotated amongst the CAG members and somebody was the chair for the meeting. Provided some minutes to the director at the time, who edited anything that was necessary and published that.
Yeah, and so what I've heard that there were some challenges with that procedure.
And also sometimes they would come and do a verbal report at
Yeah.
the next board meeting. I know Kate did many times.
We did open for every meeting.
Yeah.
But, you know, there's not too many changes that need to be made. So we're probably not to keep up with it.
I think the framework redesign, I thought we did say that in when we kind of reignited or re-emphasized the CAD, that we wanted to make sure there was a framework, and that was the revisit for the bylaws. And the operational framework maybe is what needs to be just light, but structured.
If you could have a summation for the staff, it'd be helpful, and then you can send it out to them, and comment, get it up to you, don't make one copy.
Yeah, I guess just my own concern, you start talking minutes, level of effort goes way up. And cost.
Well, I don't know, what we had in the past wasn't really multiple pages of minutes, it was like 1.5 or 2 pages, as I recall. It was bullet pointed on what was discussed and any consensus.
Yeah, like.
But it was sent into the staff.
Right.
It was sent into them, so I don't think that step out. Let them make a summation of the meetings and back this, make sure we just run it. So you get what the meeting's about.
Even, yeah, if it comes to us and we're supposed to edit it now, we're having responsibility for what it says.
But why not just an oral report at each board meeting from the chair of the CAG? I don't know, do they rotate the chair or?
It is.
I think they have on.
The volunteer who's
Yeah,
filling.
that's exactly what they did. That was a lot of.
That would be a much longer level.
Yeah, I mean, I think that then we can have interaction and, I would find that very useful.
Good direction. What kind of direction you need in?
Yeah, that's great.
Any other thoughts?
I think the direction is to keep it informal and keep it away from issues of Brown Act and forums and, but then have it report out verbally from the volunteer of the CAG at the board.
And it's a regular agenda item for us.
We can move on to.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I guess with the direction that we'd really like to bring these bylaws for approval soon. This is probably the 3rd or 4th time. So
It'd be great if we could, do what you said, in consolidating them and sending them out earlier so that we get some time to.
Yeah, so we'll get them out with enough time for people to review the final draft and then let them know that we are ready to give approval at the next meeting, just to check boxes and move forward.
Okay. All right. Ready? This is review the draft conflict of interest code and prepare for adoption in February. Do we need to discuss that? We just received it.
You must have known we were having a meeting in February.
No, this is before we approved it. Or there's a few things that assume that we were on the old schedule.
Bill.
Yeah, let me just say two things about it. One, it seemed before it was in the bylaws, and we really shouldn't be adopting the conflict of interest code in the bylaws. It could be put in the bylaws with a notation like we do for the JPA, but you really need to adopt it separately through a resolution, send it into our code reviewing body, and they'll say, yes, it's a good code. Aside from that, this is pretty much what was in there already that you've seen. I've made some minor changes to it that are non-substantive, more for clarity than anything. But wanted you to see it because you've seen it in bylaws and where we were headed with it. So next board meeting, we'll have a resolution to adopt it finally.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, thank you. All right, item C, the fall 2025 groundwater level monitoring results.
Yeah, so special presentation from GSI Water Solutions. I'll let Katie take it.
Katie Maloney, I've seen most of your career, but I work with Tim nicely. We've been working together. Me personally, for the last 3 annual reports, and we're working preparing this year's annual report and the 5-year periodic evaluation for the GSP is underway. And we'll be getting there to you guys pretty soon. But in terms of today's presentation, it's pretty brief. I'll be giving an update on the fall 2025 groundwater levels. None of this information should be new. I believe that Matt Sperdato already presented this data a couple of meetings ago, but this will be more so in respect to the sustainable management criteria or SMCs. And so if you could go back, I'm going to present the Paso Robles formation, water levels, and the Cardiaga sand, and those are 2 principal aquifers. So just as a reminder, this is a cross section from our annual report, pretty similar ones in all of the past documents. But the Paso Robles sits on top of the Cardiaga, and then below that is non-water bearing aquifer sediment material. And so we have 2 different monitoring networks for each of the 2 principal aquifers.
So can you read the X and Y axis? Because none of our eyes are there.
Yeah, it's, so this is the cross section here, very small, but this is
The
B. So
units
this
and
is,
what the numbers are.
yeah, so this is a cross section going north to south, it's cutting up. And then this is a distance from the very end. So B here lines up with this on the map, sort of down near where we are, and then right northeast. And then this is in feet and it goes all the way up. And this is 60,000 feet here and 0. And that 0 is where we started to measure that from. And the elevation is on the y-axis. So it's just a cross section of the aquifer. All right, so our first monitoring network is situated in that top aquifer, which is the Paso Robles formation. And so all of these dots are wells, and for each of the green dots is where we have water level measurements. And so we have this, will go in the annual report, but in the appendix, we have hydrographs for each of the wells. And there are 2 things that I want to point out on this hydrograph. The first one is our measurable objective. So this is our aspirational line. If our water level is measuring above this green line, that means we're good. We've got a lot of water there. It's where we want to be. And if it dips below the red line, which is right here, that's our minimum threshold. And that is where we start to consider if there are undesirable results. And so Each one of these wells has their own minimum threshold since they're all in individual conditions and screened differently. And when we go when you are flipping through the annual reports, the way that I interpret this is first I look at the individual measurement, which we'll get into later, but mostly looking at how this line changes over time. And before you hold your breath, this is just, you'll notice that this one does dip below the minimum threshold, but it is in the minority compared to the rest of this modern network, all of these green wells here.
And this is fall of last year, right? Or we'd expect it to be at its very lowest. This is
Correct.
worst case.
Correct, yes, it was a below average water year. We can go to the next slide. And so this is the Cariaga sand formation. It's actually just the Cariaga sand, there's no formation, but a lot of these wells are closer to solving. And again, we've got a well here that is measured just at, I think it's actually a little bit above the minimum threshold, but this is another example, just in a different principal aquifer. So this table is at the very end of the annual report. It shows sort of the history of what percentage of wells were below the minimum threshold. Anything that is above 50% is bold, and I apologize, you can't see it on the screen at all, but in the report it's red versus green. Here you're gonna have to rely on the bold, but we don't see it very often where all of the wells in the network are above 50%, which is what would trigger an undesirable result. But the great news is for fall 2025, we do have values that are below 50%. So most of the wells are above their minimum thresholds. And our water year type was below normal. This year in 2026, water year 2026, we're well past this value, so. And this is the same table presented again. It's just a little bit smaller, but in summary, we've got 46% of the Paso Robles wells are below the minimum threshold. 38% of the representative wells in the Cariaga sand are below minimum thresholds. Because none of those values are above 50%, we don't expect undesirable results for the foreseeable water year. So, are there any questions?
When did we measure? Well, what was the date?
Each of the wells were measured in October. It's hard to say because that was something that Matt Sprigato did by himself. So each one has their own tag date, but they were all measured, I believe, in October for the fall.
It's interesting that they're flat, right, between spring and fall.
That is interesting.
We had a storm in October. I would have expected some kind of change. I mean, it was a big, heavy rain. So it takes
It takes a long time to work its way.
Okay, but the forecast going forward is, we're looking good, or is there any wells that you have concern?
There are no wells that we have concern. I will say, just pulling together the precipitation data for this last year, from October 2024 through the end of September 2025, so that's the total volume. We had 10 inches of rain, almost 11. In these past 3 months, and I haven't pulled January data, we've had 17 inches. So we've already, surpassed what we got in a full year in the past 3 months. So how that relates to the wells, we'll find out, but yeah.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kate. That's very good.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll get more information in the annual report, obviously, about conditions. And we'll have ongoing discussions part of the 5-year review about how we're managing that forward.
It's going to be interesting in spring. All right, item D, letter from the California Farm Bureau. I think we're just receiving that letter. Is that right?
Yeah, so the informational item, obviously the board can give us input on what they like staff to do with that, but yes, we received this letter on January 9th. from the Farm Bureau, with, related to Brown Act compliance and public decision making and the EMA GSA. There's a number of items included as some concerns and then recommendations, and I guess I'll give it to legal counsel to make sense of it.
Well, I would simply say this, if you spend a, detailed look at the letter, it doesn't really make any accusations. The only real accusation is in 3 of the recommendations, which is that interagency or staff meetings functioned as substitutes for collective bargaining of the board, collective board deliberation. From what my discussions with Dan come up with is that, that's good. Now, could you actually do that and violate Brian? No, you can't. But that's not happening. Board members are involved in all the deliberations policy. So, I'm not sure where the accusation is coming from. Other than that, it pretty much is a good summation of Brown. It's just, there's an accusation which is supported by the facts that I haven't seen any facts that would support.
Is staff gonna respond to it? Are you gonna draft a letter that says we agree with the Brown Act and we're gonna abide by it?
That's the decision of the board. I would kind of suggest that we say, thank you very much. We agree Brown Act is important and violated the Brown Act.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I took some exception to it because they were accusing us of violating it. And we didn't violate it.
Yeah.
I don't like those kind of accusations. They better come with facts the next time if they think we've done something wrong. I don't like that. And I think we need to give them a letter back, a strong letter, We have been over backwards, for agriculture. We're the one who brought agriculture onto the board. How dare they make these accusations? I don't like that at all. I think this board has been really good for agriculture. So, yeah, I think we need to have a letter back to them. If they have any other, questions, talk to us first before they throw these letters out. I took offense to it, tell you the truth, because this board does really good. Like 2 cents.
For what it's worth, I didn't read it that way. I read it as they were raising a concern and they gave us constructive feedback and we're actually acting, we were already acting. On those things for, regardless of whether we were, I don't think we did reading the violations.
Right. But
We strengthened our position.
they're an important constituent, so we need to respond accordingly.
Like you said, we made changes
Well,
to address it.
well, we did, but we didn't have to because we didn't do anything wrong. See, that's like a meeting we did wrong. Oh gosh, yeah, we changed it now. We got the cake thing going, We didn't do anything wrong. But we listened and we're trying to broaden out and get, better input. But yeah, we did nothing wrong. But that comes back to every one of us on the board that we violated it, staff violated, and they said legal counsel violated.
We'll direct the staff to send a letter.
Is that what you want? Is that what we want to do?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and maybe we can partner better going forward.
Well,
Perception may be reality here.
I don't advocate we take a defensive position. We just say thank you very much. We've complied.
Boy, I'd say we have not violated. Thank you very much. All right, go find someone else.
Does legal take a shot at it? I mean, do we need to review it again, or are you just gonna go through it?
If you would like to review the letter, I can send it to you and you can review it. I'm just sitting here drafting it. We believe the Brown Act is a very important aspect of California law.
Yeah.
Public input is incredibly needed.
Yep.
We haven't violated the Brown Act and, leave it, at that.
Yeah, I would say that you can, well, I have to respond to these letters a lot. You affirm your, that's something everybody's on. But it, as irritating as it might be to feel like you've got a groundless accusation, the bottom line is you do want to promote some public to come forward with information like this, even if it's wrongheaded, because one of these days we'll learn something that we didn't know, and so about something going on. So I would thank them for being involved and say we looked at it and didn't find anything. Thank you. You know, I wouldn't take a defensive
Right,
stance.
don't antagonize. I agree.
But I don't think we need to see it again. We should authorize you to send it, and if you want to put it in a package.
I think you covered all the basic points. I think it's got the letter.
Yeah, but I think they have sufficient, responding sufficient.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be signed by the chair.
Then we'll find something.
All right, shall we move on?
Move on.
Item E, the review of the recent EMA GSA well permit approvals or approved by the county Santa Barbara. There were two, the 3047 Ballard and the 1473 Rolling Hills Road. Any comments?
Are any of the parties here tonight? If we were surprised one time when we did one of these and the person was there and said, oh, that's not right. You know,
Yeah.
I think it's just information.
we had to go back and say, okay, well, we need to fix this application, even though this is for information only.
Doesn't look like there appears anybody here online. Sherman, is there anybody online? Okay. And any comments or, there was nothing that jumped out to me.
No,
Either.
both new irrigation, fine.
We're good to move on.
Our sustainability, that's what
Right,
this
thank you,
is.
Dan.
So,
Item F, the update on Prop 68 grant and EMA GSA initiative.
Yeah, I mean, it's just time. We're continuing to make good progress on component 2 demo projects. The other piece is well registration and reporting. We talked about that enough today. Component 3 is done. That was the groundwater extraction fee evaluation. So that's done. Component 4, we're continuing with monitoring year end. We're 24-25 annual report, 5-year eval. 5, we make progress on the installation of new monitoring wells and development.
Okay, can I ask that we get some kind of a spend plan for the remaining budget that we have that's reimbursable between, I guess, our next meeting and February of 2027, so we can see where we are at with respect to that spend rate to maximize our ability to get reimbursed by the state grant program. And if we're falling behind, then maybe we can help encourage priorities so that we get the dollars that we should get. Yeah, and I recognize we've thrown some hurdles at you too tonight, given, we didn't approve that one item, but we could still see what the plan is to, cover the costs.
Yeah, I mean, I think what probably be good is maybe at the joint meeting in March, we could get a, broader update that we can also bring back at future EMA meeting, EMA specific update as there are sub-grant agreements with all parties. But yeah, that's our goal as well. I don't think we're gonna leave anybody out there.
I don't know if that's a good, but okay.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on, item 6, consider the date and times for and need for future regular and or special meetings. So we kind of covered all that.
Right.
Do we need to, we've agreed on the next CAD being February 12th and our next meeting, February 26th, is a special meeting, and then we approved all the standard schedule. So the next basin-wide jump.
That was just a clarification on that. So when we do the 26th February meeting, since that's a surprise special meeting, when do we notice the public in that case? Is it the same as a regular meeting, or do we? I mean, now that we've decided what we got to do, like,
Special meetings, need to be noticed with 24 hours instead of 72 hours.
right. But since we've decided to do it tonight, can we do 72 just because it doesn't look like it's a surprise?
You can always do 72. The 24-hour is just
That's a
the basic requirements of the Brown Act.
Okay.
There's vote whether or not something is a special meeting or has become a regular meeting, you give it 72 hours. And if it's not what we're really concerned about, if you'd like this to give 72 hours notice, absolutely.
Yeah, that would be great for optics.
That meeting should have one agenda,
Good.
so
I
pretty simple.
I would like to reserve the option. Hopefully, we've got an agreement with DWR for facilitation support that we can also bylaws.
Oh, okay. Yes, and balance, it's getting all done. All right, we'll use the time. We should remove it.
And conflict of interest resolution.
Okay.
Resolution.
We have another 3 hours.
Regular.
Yeah.
Your regular meetings, it's no budget or finance, that's about it.
All right, so we got item A, item B, we did agree that we really just noticed the March 13th. Is that the right date? March 13th is the next basin-wide joint special meeting?
We moved it back a week from the normal scheduled first Friday of the month because it works much better with the timing for the preparation of the annual report.
Okay.
Relative to the deadline to submit it.
All of our joint meetings for 20.
So we should do it in the first one.
Okay.
Okay, good to know. Everybody got that? Okay.
You know, schedule it.
Is that?
We have a schedule.
Yeah, yeah.
I can expect that.
All right, and after that, item C, our next regular board meeting will be March 26th. That's the far.
Yeah. The joint basin.
Okay, we're good to move on. Item 7. Any other board member requests, reports, requests for future agenda items?
Ones we enumerated a minute ago.
We covered a lot. Okay. Any other comments? Good. We're good to adjourn? Adjourn. We're gonna adjourn at 6:28.
Congratulations on your first. Yeah. You made it.